The Vexari had the strongest drink in the galaxy for 300 years. One sip and you'd see visions. Two sips and you'd black out. Then humans showed up with a simple bottle and made their entire civilization question everything. Their strongest brew was a joke until humans introduced true fire. In the dim, amber-lit halls of the Galactic Concordance Station orbiting the neutral world of Kethar, the annual Brewmaster Conclave was in full swing. The air hummed with the low thrum of antigrav servers gliding between tables, carrying trays of exotic liquids from 1,000 worlds. Representatives from every major species gathered here not for diplomacy, but for something far more primal: the competition to claim the title of strongest drink in known space. At the center of it all stood the reigning champions, the Vexari. Tall, slender beings with iridescent chitin skin that shifted colors according to their moods. The Vexari had dominated the Conclave for 3 centuries. Their signature brew, Shadowveil, was legendary. A single sip induced visions so vivid they bordered on prophecy, followed by euphoric haze that could last days. But its true power lay in its kick, a neurotoxin derived from the deepest trenches of their homeworld's acid oceans that temporarily rewired the drinker's pleasure centers. Most species could handle 1 shot. 2 left them catatonic. 3 had killed a few unfortunate souls over the years. The Vexari Brewmaster, a female named Lira'veth with silver-flecked mandibles, stood on the raised dais addressing the crowd. Her voice carried through the hall like silk over steel. Once again, we offer Shadowveil as the pinnacle of refinement. No species has matched its complexity, its depth, or its potency. Let the challengers come forward. Laughter rippled through the assembly. The crowd was a mosaic of galactic diversity. Bulbous-eyed Threllians who communicated through color shifts on their translucent skin. Hulking Kroxar with armored plates and booming voices. Delicate Sylphari whose bodies were more mist than matter. And then there were the humans. Humans were new to the Concordance, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 80 years earlier. They were tolerated, even welcomed in trade, but rarely taken seriously in cultural matters. Their physiology was odd, fragile in some ways, absurdly resilient in others. They bled easily but healed quickly. They tired fast but could push through pain that would drop a Kroxar. And their taste in beverages, primitive at best. Most galactic species viewed human alcohol as little more than flavored water with a mild sedative effect. A human delegation had shown up anyway. There were 7 of them, clustered around a modest table near the back. Captain Alina Voss led the mid-40s, sharp-eyed, with the kind of quiet confidence that came from commanding deep space salvage crews. Beside her sat Dr. Marcus Hale, the team's xenobiologist and amateur mixologist, a lanky man with wild curly hair and perpetual 5 o'clock shadow. The others were engineers, security, and one quiet cargo specialist named Jamal Carter who seemed more interested in the snacks than the drinks. When the Vexari called for challengers, the hall fell into an expectant hush. A few species offered their entries. The Threllian Neuronectar, the Kroxar blood wine that literally boiled in your veins, but everyone knew they were going through the motions. No one had dethroned the Vexari in living memory. Then Alina Voss stood up. The room's ambient chatter died instantly. Heads turned. Mandibles clicked in amusement. A silvery mist being coalesced into a vaguely humanoid shape and let out a sound like wind chimes laughing. Alina cleared her throat and spoke clearly, her translator implant rendering her words in perfect galactic standard. The United Terran Republic submits our entry. We call it fire. A pause. Then the hall erupted in genuine laughter. Not polite chuckles, but full-bodied, tentacle-waving, exoskeleton-rattling laughter. Fire. Lira'veth's mandibles twitched with mirth. You named your beverage after a chemical reaction most species mastered before they left their home planets. How quaint. Alina didn't smile. It's not the name that matters. It's what it does. Dr. Hale wheeled forward a reinforced case. Inside were 12 small, unassuming bottles of dark amber liquid. No glowing effects, no shimmering particles, no exotic vapor trails. Just glass and liquid that looked suspiciously like old Earth whiskey. The Vexari Brewmaster descended from the dais, her movements graceful and condescending. She picked up one bottle, held it to the light. No quantum stabilizers. No neural amplifiers. No phase-shifted alkaloids. This is fermented plant sugars and distilled ethanol. Is it not? Among other things. Hale said mildly. Lira'veth set the bottle down. Very well. We shall sample it. But I warned you. Our physiology is far more advanced than yours. Would you call fire will likely taste like sweetened water to us. The rules of the Conclave were simple. Each brewmaster or representative had to drink their own creation first to prove it wasn't poisoned. Then offer it to the panel of judges from neutral species. After that, open tasting for any who dared. Elena poured 2 small glasses, one for herself, one for Hale. They clinked them together. To new friends, Elena said. To burning bridges, Hale replied with a grin. They drank. The humans didn't flinch. Elena's eyes watered slightly, but she set the glass down steadily. Hale exhaled through his teeth and nodded appreciatively. Smooth batch. Captain, you nailed the char this time. The Vexari watched with polite skepticism. Then Lira'veth poured herself a full measure, far more than the humans had taken, and downed it in one elegant motion. For 3 full seconds, nothing happened. Then her iridescent chitin flushed a violent crimson. Her mandibles clicked rapidly. Out of rhythm, she staggered back a step, one clawed hand clutching her thorax. The hall went silent. Lira'veth's compound eyes widened, pupils contracting to pinpricks. She made a sound that no translator could properly render, half gasp, half keening wail. Then she dropped to her knees, body convulsing in what looked terrifyingly like a seizure. Gasps and alarm chitters filled the room. Medical drones swarmed in. But before they could reach her, Lira'veth surged back to her feet. Mandibles spread wide in what might have been a grin or a death rictus. By the void. What is this sorcery? She rasped. Her voice had lost all silk, replaced by raw gravel. It burns. It burns all the way down, and then it keeps burning. Inside my mind. I see the birth of my star. I feel the gravity wells tearing at my ancestors. Gyps. This is not pleasure. This is truth wrapped in agony, wrapped in more truth. She laughed then. A wild, jagged sound. Again. The other Vexari looked horrified. One tried to stop her, but Lira'veth shoved them aside and poured another, larger measure. By the time the judges tasted it cautiously, in tiny sips, the news had already spread through the station like plasma fire. Humans had brought something new. Something that didn't play by the rules of refined neurochemistry. Something that hit like a supernova in a shot glass. The Threllian judge, after one sip, turned every color of the visible spectrum at once and declared it disturbingly honest. The Croxar judge slammed his fist on the table, roared with approval, and immediately demanded the entire bottle. Even the Sylphari, who normally avoided physical matter entirely, manifested solid enough to take a sip and promptly dissolved into a whirlwind of excited vapor. Shadowveil, when tasted afterward for comparison, felt flat, elegant, yes, complex, certainly, but it lacked the raw, unfiltered punch of human fire. The Vexari lost the Conclave that year. They did not take it well. 3 months later, aboard the human heavy freighter Burning Horizon, Captain Elena Voss reviewed the latest diplomatic incident reports with a mixture of amusement and growing concern. The Vexari had filed 17 formal complaints with the Concordance Council. They accused humans of chemical warfare disguised as hospitality. They demanded the formula for fire be banned as a controlled substance. They even tried to have the humans expelled from the annual Brewmaster Conclave permanently. None of it stuck. The Council, after extensive testing, classified fire as a novel recreational intoxicant with unusually high volatility across multiple biochemistries. It was legal, but heavily taxed and restricted to licensed establishments. That didn't stop demand from exploding. Human distilleries back on Earth and the Mars colonies were working triple shifts. New variants were appearing. Fire infused with real chili peppers from old Mexico. Fire aged in barrels made from salvaged starship wood. Even a zero-gravity distilled version that formed perfect floating spheres of liquid flame. But the Vexari weren't done. Lira'veth herself had taken a leave of absence from her clan's brewing operations. Rumor said she had become obsessed. She had purchased every sample of human alcohol she could find: whiskey, vodka, rum, even the cheap stuff from frontier outposts. She was running experiments in a private lab on Cathar, trying to understand why a simple ethanol-based drink could affect her species so profoundly when their own hyper-engineered neurotoxins could not. Dr. Marcus Hale, now something of a minor celebrity in human space, had been invited to lecture at the Xenobiological Institute on Luna. His talk, titled "Why Human Hangovers Are Evolutionary Superpowers," had gone viral across the galactic net. But Alina knew the real story was more complicated. It wasn't just about the alcohol. It was about what fire represented. Humans had evolved on a death world, a planet where the environment tried to kill you every single day. Predators, disease, weather, rival tribes. Their ancestors had stared into campfires and seen not just warmth, but a weapon. They had learned to control combustion, to harness it, to make it part of their very culture. Fire wasn't a tool to them. It was a companion, a god, a demon, a truth teller. Most galactic species had skipped that stage entirely or experienced it so briefly it left no cultural scar. They had moved from raw survival to refined technology without the messy middle where you learned that pain and pleasure were often the same flame. Humans remembered the burn, and now they were sharing it with the galaxy. The burning horizon was en route to Cathar for a trade summit when the trouble started. Alina was on the bridge when the proximity alarms blared. A Vexari cruiser had dropped out of hyperspace dangerously close. Its weapon systems hot but not locked. "Open channel," Alina ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, showing Lira'veth in what looked like a private stateroom. Her chitin was duller than Alina remembered, streaked with stress patterns. Her eyes looked haunted. "Captain Voss," Lira'veth said without preamble, "we need to talk. Privately. No council observers. No recordings." Alina leaned back in her command chair. "You're the ones who've been trying to get us blacklisted. Why should I trust you?" "Because Shadowveil is dying," Lira'veth said flatly. "Our entire brewing industry is collapsing. Young Vexari are turning to human imports. Our traditional methods, they feel hollow now. And I think I know why." She paused, mandibles clicking softly. "Your fire doesn't just affect the body. It forces the mind to confront something we have spent millennia avoiding. Raw chaos. The unfiltered universe. We built our civilization on control, precise chemistry, predictable reactions. You built yours on this." Alina studied her for a long moment. "What do you want?" "Lira'veth. A trade. Your knowledge for ours. Teach me how to make true fire. In exchange, I will give you the complete Vexari Shadowveil process, every secret, every forbidden refinement, and I will withdraw all complaints against humanity." Dr. Hale, standing just off screen, raised an eyebrow at Alina. She muted the channel for a second. "Thoughts, Marcus?" Hale rubbed his chin. "It's a trap, or it's genuine desperation. Either way, we learn something. But if we give them the full recipe, they might weaponize it." Alina unmuted. "We meet. Neutral ground. Cathar surface. One of the old ruins. You bring 3 of your people. We bring 3 of ours. No weapons beyond sidearms. And Lira'veth, if this is some kind of revenge plot, know that humans don't do subtle. We do thorough." Lira'veth's mandibles twitched in what might have been a smile. "Understood, Captain. I look forward to tasting real fire again." The ruins of Karva sprawled across a desert plateau on Cathar's southern continent. Ancient stone spires, half buried by sand, whispered of a civilization that had risen and fallen long before the Vexari achieved spaceflight. Wind howled through broken arches, carrying the faint scent of ozone and dry minerals. Alina, Hale, and Jamal Carter arrived in a small shuttle, setting down near a collapsed temple. They carried a portable still, ingredient sourced from human ships, and several bottles of the strongest fire batch yet 120 proof, infused with habanero essence and aged in charred oak from Tennessee back on Earth. The Vexari arrived shortly after in a sleek black lander. Lira'veth led them, accompanied by two males whose chitin bore the markings of high-ranking brewmasters. They carried their own equipment: crystalline vials, neural scanners, and what looked like a portable molecular synthesizer. No one spoke at first. The two groups sized each other up across 20 meters of sand. Then Lira'veth stepped forward. "Shall we begin?" They set up in the shade of a massive fallen obelisk. Elena and Lira'veth worked side by side. An unlikely pair. The human explained the basics of distillation, mashing grains, fermenting with yeast, running it through copper stills, cutting the heads and tails. Lira'veth listened with intense focus, her compound eyes never leaving the process. In return, the Vexari demonstrated Shadowveil-esque creation. It was beautiful and terrifying. They used living organisms, tiny symbiotic creatures harvested from their oceans that secreted neuroactive compounds on command. The brew was alive. In a sense, it adapted to the drinker's biochemistry in real time. Hours passed. The sun dipped low, painting the ruins in blood-red light. They tasted prototypes. The first human Vexari hybrid was a disaster. Too much Vexari neural base made the humans hallucinate for 6 hours straight. Too much human fire made the Vexari vomit iridescent fluid and speak in ancient dialects no one recognized. But the second attempt, they called it Brewmaster. It started smooth, like Shadowveil, elegant layers of flavor that unfolded like flower petals in the mind. Then the fire hit. Not a gentle burn, but a controlled inferno that stripped away illusions. Drinkers saw their own fears, their own strengths, their own lies reflected back at them in perfect clarity. Lira'veth drank a full measure and didn't collapse this time. She stood perfectly still for a long minute, then spoke in a voice thick with emotion. "I understand now. Your fire, it doesn't weaken. It forges. We have spent centuries perfecting pleasure without cost. You never forgot that everything worth having costs something. Pain, effort, risk. This brew, it balances both." Elena took a sip herself. A familiar heat spread through her chest, bringing with it memories of earth campfires on cold nights. The smell of wood smoke. The laughter of friends who had gone on to distant stars. "Yeah," she said quietly. "That's the point." Jamal Carter, who had been mostly quiet, suddenly spoke up. "You know what this reminds me of? Old Earth stories. Prometheus stealing fire from the gods. They punished him for it. But humanity got the fire anyway. And we never gave it back." One of the Vexari brewmasters shifted uncomfortably. "Your myths speak of punishment for sharing knowledge." Hale nodded. "Lots of them. But the sharing always happened anyway. That's kind of our thing. We see something powerful, something dangerous, and instead of locking it away, we hand it out and figure out how to live with it." As night fell, they built a real fire in the center of the ruins, not for warmth, but for ceremony. Human style, with wood scavenged from the shuttle and dried desert brush. The flames crackled and danced, casting long shadows across the ancient stones. The 6 of them sat around it, passing bottles back and forth. Brewmaster and pure fire, and even a small amount of traditional Shadowveil. Stories were told. Lira'veth spoke of Vexari legends, great ocean storms that swallowed entire fleets. The first brewmasters who dove into acid trenches to harvest the symbiotic creatures. Elena told of humanity's long, bloody road to the stars. World wars, pandemics, the desperate scramble when climate collapse threatened everything. How they had looked up at the night sky and decided the darkness wasn't empty, it was waiting. At some point, the conversation turned philosophical. "Why does your drink affect us so differently?" Lira'veth asked, staring into the flames. Hale answered, "Because we evolved with it. Not just alcohol fire itself. Our brains are wired for it. The same circuits that light up when we see open flame are tied to reward, to storytelling, to social bonding. Your species jumped straight to chemical precision. You never needed the messy, dangerous middle step. We did, and we turned that necessity into art." Jamal added, "Plus, humans are stubborn as hell. We kept drinking even when it made us sick. Because sometimes the sickness was worth the clarity the next day. Hangovers are nature's way of saying, remember what you did." Most species don't have that feedback loop built in so strongly. Lira'veth was quiet for a long time. Then she reached into her satchel and pulled out a small, Ornate vial filled with pure Shadowveil, the real, undiluted version reserved for Vexari elders. I offer this freely, she said, not as trade, as apology for underestimating you, for thinking your simplicity was weakness. Elena accepted the vial, and we offer you this. She handed over a freshly distilled bottle of fire, still warm from the portable still, not as a weapon, as a gift.
Citizens of the galaxy, I stand before you as a testament to our enduring supremacy.
Fire,
your admiration is noted. But remember, we are the architects of your future.
They drank together under the alien stars. But peace never lasts when powerful things are involved.
Indeed, their energy came at dawn.
It's a good sign. We hold our ground.
Vexari faction, traditionalists who viewed the human influence as cultural contamination had tracked Lira'veth to the ruins.
I challenge you.
They arrived in force.
Challenge us.
6-armed shuttles.
I do.
Elite warriors
and
in
I
combat
will
exosuits.
Win.
And a mobile laboratory
the
designed to analyze and reverse engineer any new substance on the spot.
Guaranteed to ignite the senses.
A male named Corvash with battle-scarred chitin.
The still is ready, Lyra. Let's combine the
frequencies.
elements.
Lira'veth.
Affirmative.
You have
Neural
betrayed our
scan
people.
indicates optimal synergy.
Collaborating with these primitives.
Reaction is stable.
Sharing
The
our
brew
most
is
sacred
forming.
secrets.
It's working.
You will surrender the human
This
formula.
should scramble their
and
neural
submit to
pathways.
reconditioning. Humans will be
fire
detained for
burns.
study. Elena S. Team
What's
moved
up?
fast.
Stay tough now,
We
are
had
you?
expected something like this. The burning horizon
This
was
should
in
scramble
orbit,
their neural
ready to
pathways.
provide support. But atmospheric
fire
interference meant it would take minutes to scramble
What's up? Stay
fighters.
tough now, are you?
On the ground, it was 6 against 40.
This should scramble
Jamal
their neural
Carter,
pathways.
ex-military.
The
took charge
fire
of defense.
burns.
Captain,
What's
you
up?
beat
Stay
out the
tough
high
now,
ground
are you?
on that ridge. Hail, get the stilling
This should
samples
scramble
to
their
the
neural
shuttle.
pathways.
Lira'veth, your people
The
with us
fire
are against us.
burns.
Lira'veth's mandibles
What's up?
click
Stay
sharply.
tough now, are you?
With you, this madness ends here.
This should
The battle
scramble
was
their neural
chaotic and
pathways.
strangely beautiful. Vexari
fire
warriors
burns.
moved like liquid shadow.
What's
Their
up? Stay tough
exosuits
now, are
allowing
you?
them to phase partially out of normal space for
This
brief
should
moments.
scramble their neural
Human
pathways.
weapons, kinetic rifles, and plasma
fire
sights
burns.
were crude by comparison, but
What's up?
brutally
Stay tough
effective
now,
at
are you?
short range. Elena found herself fighting
This
back-to-back
should
with
scramble their
Lira'veth.
neural pathways.
The Vexari Brewmaster wielded
fire
a ceremonial
burns.
blade that hummed with energy.
What's up? Stay tough
Slicing
now,
through
are you?
armor with surgical precision. Elena fired in
This
controlled
should
bursts,
scramble their neural
dropping
pathways.
2 attackers before they could close
The
the
fire
distance.
burns.
Remind me never to piss off
What's up?
Brewmasters.
Stay tough now, are
Elena
you?
grunted as she reloaded. Lira'veth laughed
This
genuine.
should scramble their neural
You're sad.
pathways.
I will never again
The fire
underestimate
burns.
creatures who tame fire before
What's
they
up?
tame
Stay
the
tough
battle.
now, are you?
Dr. Hill, instead of running,
This should
done
scramble their
something
neural
typically human and
pathways.
reckless. He had rigged the
fire
portable
burns.
still to overpressure and turned
What's
it
up?
into
Stay
an
tough now,
improvised
are you?
flamethrower. When a squad of Vexari tried to
This
flank
should scramble their
them,
neural
he unleashed a
pathways.
jet of ignited high-proof
The fire
alcohol
burns.
mixed with Vexari neural compounds.
What's up? Stay tough
The
now, are
resulting
you?
flame wasn't ordinary fire.
This
burned
should
with an inner
scramble their
light,
neural
flipping
pathways.
colors. And wherever it
The
touched,
fire burns.
it induced temporary neural overload.
What's up?
in the
Stay tough
attackers.
now, are you?
They dropped their weapons, clawing at their heads as visions overwhelmed them. Science, Hale yelled triumphantly as he adjusted the mixture. Jamal Carter took a hit to the shoulder but kept fighting, his face set in grim determination. These bastards want our drink. They can have it right down their throats. He lobbed a canister of pure fire, not the drinkable version, but the raw, high-concentration distillate they used for industrial cleaning. When it shattered against a Vexari exosuit and ignited from a stray plasma bolt, the resulting explosion sent 3 warriors flying. The turning point came when Lira'veth faced Corvash directly. The 2 Vexari circled each other amid the ruins. Corvash sneered. You would dilute our legacy with their crude poison. Lira'veth's eyes burned with newfound fire. No, I would strengthen it. You fear change because you have never truly tasted it. I have, and it is glorious. Their blades clashed. Energy sparked. In the end, Lira'veth was faster, more determined. She disarmed Corvash and held her blade to his throat. Surrender, she commanded, or taste true fire. Corvash looked at the humans, at his defeated warriors, at the flames still dancing from Hale's improvised weapon. He lowered his head. The council will hear of this. Let them, Lira'veth said. Let the entire galaxy hear. The age of controlled perfection is over. The age of honest fire has begun. In the aftermath, the Galactic Concordance Council launched a full investigation. What they found surprised even the most jaded diplomats. The hybrid Brews in Burvale and its variants was spreading faster than anyone predicted, not just among Vexari and humans, but across dozens of species. Threllians reported unprecedented artistic breakthroughs. Kroxar found their warriors more disciplined after experiencing the clarifying burn. Even the ethereal Sylphari claimed it helped them maintain coherence in physical form for longer periods. Shadowveil production didn't die. It evolved. Vexari brewmasters began incorporating controlled amounts of human distillation techniques, creating new lines that honored both traditions. Lira'veth became a bridge between cultures. She established the first joint human Vexari brewery on Kethar, a sprawling facility built into the very ruins where the alliance had been forged. They called it the Forge. Humans brought the fire. Vexari brought the precision. Together, they created drinks that didn't just intoxicate, they transformed. Years passed. Captain Alina Voss retired from active service and took a position as cultural liaison, traveling between Earth and Vexari space. She often visited the Forge, where she and Lira'veth would sit on the observation deck overlooking massive distillation towers and share a glass of whatever new experiment was ready. Dr. Marcus Hale became the galaxy's leading expert on cross-species recreational chemistry. His textbooks were required reading at universities from Sol to the Vexari homeworld. Jamal Carter opened a chain of bars called The Honest Flame, with locations on every major trade hub. Each one featured an open hearth where real wood fires burned. And the signature drink was always served with a warning. It bites back. That's the point. But the greatest change was subtler. Across the galaxy, species that had once prized perfect control began to embrace a little chaos. They told stories around fires, real ones, not holographic. They took risks in their art, their science, their relationships. They learned that sometimes the strongest brew isn't the one that makes you forget pain, but the one that makes you strong enough to face it. One evening, decades after that first conclave, Alina and Lira'veth stood together at the Brewmaster's conclave once more. This time, they presented a joint entry. Drew Fire, the final evolution. A drink that combined the best of both worlds' elegant complexity married to raw, honest burn. When the judges tasted it, no one laughed. The hall was silent as the full weight of it hit them. Visions, clarity, pain, joy, the complete, unfiltered experience of existence. Lira'veth raised her glass toward the human delegation, to the species who reminded us that fire was never meant to be tamed. She said, only shared. Alina raised hers in return, to the brew that was never a joke. It just took the galaxy a while to understand the punchline. They drank, and across the stars, in 1,000 bars and 1,000,000 homes, beings of every shape and chemistry lifted their glasses to the flame. Because in the end, the strongest brew wasn't the one that knocked you out. It was the one that woke you up. And humanity had brought the match that lit the universe on fire.